Japan Journal, the Internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
Well, I don't know.
Wonder where Herb is.
He said he'd be here by 11:30.
Well, it's almost 12 midnight now.
Shh. Here's someone's coming.
Oh, it's Herb.
I'm sorry I'm late. Had trouble getting away from the store. Bob dropped in and wanted to talk.
Did he go home?
I'm sure he did. It's not like Bob to stay out much past 10. A real homebody.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to meet me down here.
Well, how much stuff do you figure's cleared?
Don't know. Don't know how long it's been going on either. Should watch your step.
I'm not afraid of heights.
So am I. Dingy.
Well, big, though.
Well, it's not very neat. We get a lot of work done down here. So maybe we can clear up this whole matter right here.
Well, now, how did you discover that the merchandise was missing?
Luck, I guess. One day I was just comparing the amount of merchandise sold with the amount of material I've been buying. The two didn't match.
Well, who runs the warehouse?
Bob Brown, my purchasing agent.
Has he been with you a long time?
Sure has. Good old Bob. Don't know how we get along without him. He takes care of receiving, too.
How many people are working in the warehouse?
3 most of the time, besides Bob. Christmas time, we sometimes put on an extra man.
Well, what kind of records does he keep? Are they here?
Should be. This is his desk. Who's there?
Oh, it's you, Mr. Brennan. Sorry. I was just driving by on my way home. Saw a light over Bob's desk. So I thought I ought to check. Usually isn't anybody around this time of night.
It's all right, Johnny. We're just checking out some inventory.
I'll be on my way then, Mr. Brennan. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Hey, look at this.
It's just one of Bob's purchase orders.
For 100 color portables. Now look at this warehouse receipt.
Signed by Johnny.
Only 90 units were placed in stock.
And here's Bob's signature on the manufacturer's receipt of shipment, 100 sets.
I can name the thief, can you? It might be Johnny, or it might be Bob, or it might be someone else. Here, let me give you a few more clues. The problem really involves internal control of inventory, or the lack of it. Inventory control can be a bigger problem than the control of cash. That's because more employees come in contact with a firm's inventory. And the problem gets worse because goods are normally kept on the premises, not in a bank. Now there's one more clue. Goods have to be ordered before they can be sold or disposed of. Well, do you know who the thief is? Here's your answer. These papers point the finger at the thief. It's not Johnny. He only signs the warehousing receipts. In this case, stating that he received 90 units for storage. And it's not any of the other workers under Bob. Your thief is Bob himself.
Not good old Bob.
Good old Bob.
You're right. Bob would order the units, order more than he thought the store would need, then he'd sign the receiving statement himself.
And then he'd take part of the shipment himself and turn the rest over to Johnny for storage.
Johnny would give him an inventory receipt for that number. And Johnny wouldn't suspect anything because he never saw the purchase orders or the receiving statement.
And I'll bet Bob keeps all the warehouse receipts himself.
That's right.
Well, Herb, it's time you set up a better internal control system. Separate purchasing from receiving and receiving from warehousing.
Then make sure that someone else authorizes all purchases.
And then set up some kind of system for verifying the receipt of merchandise ordered. Make sure the person who buys the material doesn't also receive it.
Oh, and of course, you ought to also have some checks on the selling end of the business, especially on the return of merchandise and transfers to the store.
Well, those we have already. And on returns, well, only my store manager and myself can approve those. And in those cases, then the bookkeeping office will credit the customer's account or send a check for the proper amount.
A good internal control system for inventory would have spared Herb a lot of trouble and saved a lot of money. Actually, how complex or how extensive an internal control system is depends on the nature and value of the material involved. But no matter how simple the system, it should separate the following 5 functions: purchasing, receiving, internal transferring, selling, and merchandise returns. Well, a good night's work is done.
Guess so. Shame about Bob, though. I just can't understand it.
Well, perhaps the temptation was just too great. Well, speaking of temptation, I think I'd like a good hot cup of coffee, and how about some ham and eggs?
Then you name the cafe, and I'll buy.
Okay.
You go on ahead, and I'll get the lights.
Right.
Hey, Defeat.
Hello, Dave.
Charlie and I just got back from meeting with the people at the pet shop. Everything went great.
Oh, good. I didn't think you'd have any trouble. What are you doing this afternoon?
Picking up the 125-gallon aquarium Charlie and I bought for the office.
You're kidding.
Nope. Got 50 free fish to go with it, too. Saltwater fish. Not those ordinary old freshwater kind.
Well, does Joe know about this? Who's going to take care of it?
All you got to do is throw in a little fish food once in a while.
Oh, you're kidding, aren't you?
Yeah, but I had you going for a minute, didn't I?
You sure did. Anyway, about this afternoon, now that you're free, I'd like you to go over to Modern Business Systems with Joe and me. We do some of the accounting for this firm, and if they keep expanding, they may become one of our largest clients. I think you should meet the manager, Sam Kaufman. He called us for some help in figuring depreciation.
Okay, I'll meet you right here.
All right. We should leave around 2 o'clock.
Sam, this is our assistant, Dave Wallace.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Kaufman.
Oh, just Sam. Sit down, fellas.
Thanks.
Now, as I told you over the phone, Peter, this is the first year this company has provided any cars for our sales.
And I think I'll ask Peter and Dave to sit down and draw up a table comparing the 4 methods so you can keep that to base your decision on, okay?
Okay.
Peter, Dave, would you?
There's another office right next door if you'd like some more room to work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now, Sam, you've used straight-line depreciation. You guys are really fast, huh? I'm still in the middle of my explanations. But what did you get for the depreciation using the sum of the year's digits method and the declining balance method?
The sum of the year's digits method charges depreciation expense of $2,000 for the first year and $1,000 for the second year. And if the period of useful life of the car would have been more than 2 years, Sam, you would see this figure continue to get smaller each succeeding year.
I see. And what about the declining balance method?
I did that one. And it really doesn't work very well when you have such a short life and high salvage value. You see, the depreciation in the first year would be $3,000. You get that by figuring twice the straight line rate, which is 50% times 6,000, and that doesn't leave anything for the second year. In this case, we'd better stick with the straight line or sum of the year's digits methods.
Okay, but what's the advantage of the sum of the year's digits and the declining balance methods? Why would I ever want to use them?
Well, Sam, you're recovering the cost of your equipment more rapidly than you did with the straight line method because you're depreciating the greatest amounts during the earliest years.
Depreciation accounting requires knowledge of 4 things: the useful life of the asset, its original cost, the salvage value at the end of its useful life, and some rational and systematic method for computing depreciation. We've looked at 4 methods for figuring depreciation. 3 of the methods allocate depreciable cost based on time. The straight line method assigns an equal amount of expense to each period of use, while the sum of the year's digits and declining balance methods charge greater amounts of depreciation expense to the early periods of use. A 4th method, the units of production method, bases depreciation of an asset on amount of use rather than on passage of time. Next, we'll look at the concept of goodwill.
Japan Journal, the Internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with Mal Adams.